Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Welcome back, everybody. This is Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, and joining me as always, the always festive but more festive than usual in his red sweater with his Christmas stitches background is Mr. Kyle Fergusson.
Winter's a long time, man. You got to celebrate the holiday part of it as soon as you can.
As long as it's after the holiday preceding it.
Yes, true. We are not the big hallways in department stores. We are humans, and we need to take some time to enjoy our current situations.
Yes, I don't know why that sounds masturbatory to me, but it does. But whatever the case is, yeah. I don't want to see Christmas stuff before Halloween has come, and I don't want to see Christmas stuff before Thanksgiving has come and gone.
I agree. But all the same, happy holidays to you. Happy holidays to everyone out there. This is a very special episode of Into the Nexus because I feel like an old man today.
I know. We played some games earlier, man, and I could hear the rocking chair creaking.
It really is a cap of my week, this show. Last week was Thanksgiving, and on Wednesday, our computer died.
Ooh.
Dead. Just the Saturday before, it was playing Heroes, and mid-game Team League, it dropped. And when we logged back in, Heroes was gone. The game had disappeared. It deleted itself somehow. And as over the course of the next few hours, it started restarting more and more, and eventually just rolling restarts. Dead computer. Thought it was the RAM, replaced that. Thought it was the power supply, replaced that. Thought it was the heat sink. It was overheating. Replaced that. Ended up being a faulty motherboard. But all along through this thing, I'm having like my first 30-year-old employment rom-com crisis. Because I don't commute to work. When I did commute to work, I worked in Chicago. I rode the public transit. I've never had like a car die on me. I've never been in a situation where my job could not be accomplished because some tech wasn't available at the time. And it just straight up went away. And it was horrifying to me. We ended up fixing it. It was a new motherboard. Got to reuse all the parts. Besides that, lots of new parts we picked up, but the CPU is good. Some of the expensive stuff was good. And we got out of there pretty scot-free with a lot of stress. And even now we look at the computer and it goes burp, like little, the bonus hard drive is still non-solid state, and it goes, and we're like, oh, it's going to die. This is it. This is the time it finally kicks the bucket. So amidst all this, I'm realizing for the first time in my life, wow, I have a career in gaming. This is what I do every day. I should plan for the eventual tech futures where things like this happen. I should have perhaps a longer-term view of things in this job that is my career now. I've been at it for years.
It's a scary thing, dude. I've been having the same concerns. My desktop does not seem long for this world. The most current concerning thing is that it can take up to 5 reboots for it to realize that it has USB ports. What little uninformed searches I have done make it seem like it's pointing to eventual motherboard failure. But I don't know much about that kind of stuff. I'm actually not the most savvy when it comes to the inner workings of computers. But yeah, keeping an old computer around that still functions is good, and we have that. We also have a laptop. But even if this died, man, that would not be easy. It would not be an easy transition to unearth that old computer of mine and make it stream-worthy, while I also scarily go and shop for new computer parts. So, but I'm glad that you took it in a way where you're like, I should be happy that I'm experiencing this crisis, that this crisis is affecting me with such great gravity, because it means that I have somehow scavenged a living out of something I never thought I'd be paid to do.
It was a really important moment for me, and definitely for the first time ever kind of made me feel 30 as I went, I appreciate the things I have, and things take a long time to build, and I can see where I've come from, and I need to start planning for the future, and inevitability is like a computer going out, much like you will want to have money for tires and car repairs if you commuted. It's a sensible thing to do. So that same day that we finally fixed the computer, we're just overjoyed. It's finally working. They dropped Supportocalypse, the patch we're about to talk about. So I feel like I had to preface all of today with this dad monologue because it just takes time. And you gotta, take things as they come and have a longer view of life.
So that's the nicest possible spin on folks. We could have started today with muffled curses from the garage in Kyle's voice, and then just started the show, and it would have been the same setup. That's what
Two different kinds of dad, right? I want to be the one that goes down on the knee, eye to eye, hand on the shoulder.
I come from the school of if it's not working, break it down to its bare bones and build it back from scratch.
Which explains why you probably are so frightened of your computer. I built all my computers, so I know at least what's in them.
Yeah. Well, Supportocalypse is here, and there's quite a bit to discuss. So now that we've explained why folks may hear some creaky rocking chairs over the course of this episode, let's dive into this week's news.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Point me to the stage.
Stay a while and listen.
So if you've been living under a hero's rock and you don't know what the hell we're talking about when we say Supportocalypse, the TLDR on this is all supports have been nerfed. All of them. With an asterisk on that. There's a few that actually kind of dodged the bullet. Well, more on that in a second. But let's before we get into what exactly happened, Kyle, let's talk about what the devs had to say about why this change was made. And again, it mostly just boils down to they're sick of double healer.
Yes, this is perhaps a balance change and perhaps one of the most interesting social experiments ever made.
Okay. Do you want to dive into that, or is there a better place to talk about why you think it's a social experiment?
Well, it's, I think, best highlighted by the conversations that have been happening in my Twitch chat for the last 2 weeks. There is a perspective, and it's not wrong, that double support is easier to win with. It's great. It has lots of catch. There are so many tools available to you, cleanses and shrink rays and armor and just healing, that reduce the mistakes of your allies or suddenly turn a mistake into a absolute win. For example, that Greymane dives, you divine shield that character, Greymane's not out of position, he's dead. They're really, really powerful. And Blizzard here says pound for pound that they might have been more powerful than all the other classes, so they have to rein them back.
Yeah, they did bring that up. So let's get a little more nuance with the developers' comments on all of this. Going a bit deeper, they kind of started things off with, yes, folks, we're okay with Tassadar, Tyrande, and Medivh needing to be paired with another support. That's just getting that out of the way, because obviously I think that was going to be a very common retort, which is, but there's these supports that need another, when they're like, well, we know that. That's intended for those heroes, not for the others. And then they went in to say, it's fine if double support shows up every now and then, but we don't want it to be for the commons. They want it to be a common strategy, and specifically they pointed out they don't want you to not care what the map is and not care what the enemy team composition is. They don't want you blindly going into a draft and just knowing you're going to double support.
And that has worked. More on that later. But this is the part that they're actually targeting, the double support. It's interesting to think, all healers are down 5%. They nerf them. But when we have two supports, now we're down 10%. Things start to get interesting. And the real thing is that absolutely 100% in higher leagues, there was no reason not to double support because it was too easy. You had enough lane clear. Plus, if your guys don't die, you don't have to lane clear because you've been managing the lanes because you've had map presence the whole time. So they have succeeded in getting that out of our heads. People saw it in high end. We played it in the high end of Hero League. And the lower leagues perhaps felt like they should be pulling it off but couldn't. And that's where I agree with this big change. Is there was definitely pressure from those who watched esports, taking that information into their own silver leagues and going, guys, double support. It's so easy. Let's do it. And nobody wants to support. They think that's the last pick, the bad pick, perhaps the most useless. Who knows what's going on there? The main reason, if you get right down to it, is lower leagues don't have the skilled hyper carry to execute the amount of damage that you're doing on those Vials and Greymanes to make up for double support.
Yeah. And that hyper carry, that was also brought up by the devs in the comments. They talked about the most popular compositions where it's basically leaving one slot open for damage right now in this double support meta, and it's forcing hyper carries, basically forcing Vala and Greymane to be two of the most common picks in the assassin slot. And without mentioning Chromie, they did say that they wanted to create space for mages and other assassins.
Which is interesting. When you reduce health pools and healing numbers, you do open up opportunities for more burst to be winning games.
Yeah. And then I look at that and go, is this why the stealth changed? Is this really why the stealth change is coming? Because they really want the mages to come back and they don't want the mages to come back and then immediately get discouraged because the stealthies came back?
If they come back, right? Well, that's still yet to be seen. I think Nova's going to be fine. I think quite a few of our stealthies are going to be even better, maybe. But yeah, that's a great point. Like, or maybe it's the opposite, right? They need to nerf support so that the stealthies go, I'm going to land this swing gank, guys, on Rhaegar. Oh, he's got Uther too. Whoops. And ruins the entire, we're pre-setting up a healthy stealth meta.
Right. But also the fact that you can see them, even though they don't show up on the minimap while they're moving, at least now there's that you can kind of point to and be like, well, get good. Train for this one particular thing. Instead of trying a mage once, you get farmed by Zeratul the whole game, and then you never go back to a mage again.
This is very complex.
My point is there's a lot
to figure out.
There's a lot of folks thinking Team 1 is insane, and we've got a massive change to the way laning functions in this game, as well as stealthies still to come on top of all the support changes that happened today. So maybe Team 1's insane, but maybe they're geniuses, is the point I'm trying to put out in the world. Maybe the stars will align when all of these other changes hit.
Well, it's important to note, too, that this was released as a balance update on Tuesday. That was going to go live on Thursday. There was several hours of freaking out before they eventually put up a dev comment blog and told us why they went this way. And that speaks to me that there was some disagreement in the team. And that is 100% expected. Probably a lot of people were like, put this out now. I want data on these supports before we hit with everything else coming. We're reducing their lane clear. Well, how does that change when the new game hits? And then there's probably the other half that just goes, box it up. Let's do a 3.0 kind of announcement. Let's not leak this.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm having a hard time kind of having a strong opinion this week because of how in flux I feel the game is with what's on the PTR, with what came today or this week in the live game. So we're going to be hitting speed bumps, I think, in our conversation multiple times today is the point I'm making.
No, it's very true. And we have two very different, perspectives right now. And both are healthy modes of play. I really enjoy Hero League. I enjoy the draft. And this season, I placed in Platinum 2. And this week, I climbed to Diamond 1. I've done a full league and more now in this current system. So it was rather scary for me. I hit the ground yesterday going in this new patch and just said, yeah, I'm just going to stick to my guns. I'm going to stick to Uther. Nobody wanted a second support at all. It was out of people's minds. I was mad. So I ended up solo Uthering all day. Ended up making that promotion yesterday as well. So in the chaos, I am succeeding in the doldrums, perhaps. And to me, looking at this as a Master Blaster is about the best way I can say it. Like, your victory is mine. I'm not the kind of guy that has to be on top, be the team captain, lift on the shoulders. I'm happy lifting the team captain because I'm there in the photo with it, and he wouldn't even be lifted if it wasn't for me with providing a shoulder, right?
So you're happy being the master to someone else's blaster is the analogy you're trying to make.
Exactly. Scheming from the background, and who doesn't want to be the final bad guy? The curtain parts, and it wasn't really the big tough dude, it's the wizard behind. Like that's who I want. Everyone wants to have their moment in the sun.
Fair enough. All right.
To me, working my assassins forward is a chore, a happy chore. It is the strategy. When I play tank, I am in front of you. I am your man. Muradin's coming in a straight line at you. I know he wants to stun you. Let me absorb that stun instead of you, Vala. I've got you.
I wish you were on my team this week. My God. Just trying to single support these tanks right now.
Right, and that's the thing. We went from double support where we had this really fortified backline because there were two supports out there taking care and making this guy comfortable, whoever the carry was. It could be Zul'jin, Vala, Greymane. Those are the ones all in my league, and perhaps this targeting will help out with that diversity. Because of that double support backline, we evolved the meta where we had forward wacky tanks. And I got to play in a Grandmaster game yesterday. McIntyre was there. Several other Grandmasters were on the enemy side. There were some placers, so it all went wacky, and I ended up playing in a pro game. McIntyre and I did not agree on a thing. He was streaming at the same time, too. It was great information for me. I got to go watch his stream, and we're both just like, what are you doing? And I'm doing like, what are you doing? This isn't pro play. And he's like, what are you doing? This isn't pro play. Like, we're both just not agreeing. Nobody's agreeing with anything anyone's cooking up on the team. To me, his tank should have been helping guarding the back line. And I'm sitting back here. I'm babysitting. I'm trying to get Zul'jin stacked up, and I have a Valera. But I have this Muradin who is convinced that we can dive a Morales, and he's the pro player. He's in there. He's doing these big, long fishing leaps, anchoring great for the team, but it's scary stuff. I want him hugging my dudes. I've got these little babies I'm trying to take care of, and I need Muradin to come home at the end of the day and make sure they get soaked and leveled up.
So you're the stay-at-home parent, and Muradin is the working parent, and you need the working parent to come home and lend some aid.
I do, and it used to be that we had these double supports taking care of that back line. So there's a real amount of chaos right now because of the healing numbers. There are very mad Greymanes and Valas not adjusting their play right now. However, the only people who have adjusted their play are the supports, the support mains, who have realized they can't just pick Ana, Uther, like myself, and maybe have to work in Stukhovs and Malfurions. The other category of players that have adjusted are the double tanks, because they've realized that solo support can't take care of all the health on that team. So regeneration tanks are becoming huge right now, really fast. And I'm not talking about, your Artanuses, your variants, people who can catch damage. That doesn't matter, because ultimately your health will go down, even if by a smidgen. Between those little protects on variant, your health will still decrease. You need Sonya, Muradin, ETC, Sonya again. Just throw her in the list twice. It's worth it. And that's where we're ending up. Stitches as well. Diablo to an extent, because he has those talents, help him get orbs and whatnot. Garrosh is just banned back and forth, so that's not happening. But so far, all we've done is rotated onto a double tank meta instead.
I'm okay with that as long as tanks react to the change with supports, react to a single support world. So it's interesting that you ended up in a game with McIntyre and you two had such different, takes on things. Because the way I kind of look at it, and this is most likely going to be my through line today, especially because topic number 2 of today, besides supports, will be Sergeant Hammer, is everyone learning the wrong lessons from success. Like, you're winning, but you're learning, you're getting the wrong feedback from the wins is my point. Like, I think the double support meta, we're teaching everyone that were not supports, that they could get crazy, that they could go extremely deep, and it didn't matter because there was enough health coming in, enough immunity coming in that you could make up for lack of tactics. And
some of these, though, aren't self-imposed, like Garrosh, Artanis, Stitches. There's going to be situations where we still are going to go double support because we got to get that guy all the way from there back to here. And those are the healthy ones. Those are the ones where they get Garrosh somehow. We messed it up. They got Garrosh. Okay, we're going to run Tassadar, Tracer, and then another main support that can hang out and heal up the main tank and the main carry. But half of our team, 2 people on it, are toss-free. Garrosh can do whatever they want with them. We can deny that now. And if someone who isn't toss-free gets caught, we have that Tassadar shield to reach out and help bring them back.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Am I completely crazy? What do you think of my thought that we've been pretty spoiled by double support, and now that's been taken away, and it's still so soon that we just have not adjusted?
Right, and to me, fighting all these masters recently, it is laughable that you would switch day one to me. I mean, here I am. You know, I placed in a league that I wasn't pleased with, and I put in the time, and I found a guy with everything I wanted: poke, surprise, level, power adjustment, spikes that I really liked at certain periods in the game, and I ran with him, mained him. And that's how I assume most people got to Masters, right? But day one, you take your skills and you say, oh, double support's dead, I'm going to Morales? Because you haven't played Morales in a year, but you just do it? That's where things are kind of mad for me. And to me, removing this 10% from a double support comp is nothing. Because it was already overpowered. That's what we're talking about here, right? If anything, we took double support and we put it back in line with where it should be as a opportunity to recover versus high damage or scary repossessioning comps.
That is an interesting take. And do you think it'll stay that way with the changes that are still to come? Because the other big thing that they did here, I mean, we very lightly mentioned that it was a 5% nerf, but it's a 5% nerf across the board for almost every support in the game. They decrease their damage, they decrease their healing, they decrease their health. And they weaken their wave clear, and that's not part of the necessarily the 5% nerf. That got a little more specific with talents like Lightning Bond on Rhaegar, for example.
Yeah, huge hit there.
So that's kind of what I'm leaning into right now is the discussion about wave clear and the change that is coming. You know, ammo is going bye-bye. The towers are going to keep shooting. They're going to hit a little bit harder. Although I guess, I mean, they're buffing the lane minions as well. But if you're bringing in double support, on paper, at least what Team 1 is selling us, is that wave clear is important. They admitted that they probably didn't give it the weight that it deserved, but it is certainly a factor now. And so that's part of why they've weakened supports in this way, so that if you take 2 of them, you're going to be lacking in wave clear. And I don't think we're necessarily going to see the effects of that right now, because you can still just run the towers out of ammo. Who gives a crap? But when the what's on the PTR right now goes live, we might see the pendulum swing back hard.
And I think that would be the perfect thing to happen. I think that is the health that they are looking for. Because I don't think double support went anywhere. I think it was perhaps overpowered. I think there's a ton of damage you can get out of those aggressive hyper carries. And they need to, in Hero League, be overhealed to have the comfort to perform at that level. And if they don't receive that amount of healing, they will play at that level, die, and then become tilted. So you're also, avoiding that result as well by overhealing them.
So it almost seems like, if that's the outcome, if when the tower and fort changes go live, that going double support does make it so that you cannot clear waves fast enough, it almost sounds like you might like the speed at which this adjustment is taking place, right? Because so the supports get nerfed, we start having the discussion, but double support still works fine, but we have some time to think about the oncoming storm that is the next big patch.
Right, and this all ties back into what I was saying with you're alive. You're mana efficient in a double support comp, and you're alive. which means you have map presence, which means you don't have to clear that giant wave with a Kale Thos because you've been clearing it incrementally the whole time with your sweet presence. You don't need to go soak that pile because it never was a pile. We've been soaking the whole time. I think we're going to break even. I think double support should keep being picked when we get a hyper carry because they have more damage inside them that single carry can get out.
So don't stop playing Vala, don't stop playing Greymane is what you're saying.
In higher leagues with the double support among the people who understand that, right? For lower leagues, I think this is probably pretty darn good and opens up all the opportunities we would want for specialists to come back. You're freeing a role on the team, after all. Right. And that Vala wasn't getting that level of damage that required two people supporting it.
Makes sense. Well, let's talk about the folks that dodge bullets, the supports that did not get hit with the 5% across the board nerf. First off, at least in the health regard, Karazim, Rhaegar, and Uther and Stukov did not have their health changed. Also, Stukov did not lose auto attack damage.
Yep. So if you were a melee, you didn't lose health on your support, which is very nice.
Yeah, I was happy about that because I read the dev comments before I looked at the notes, and I was concerned because they mentioned that certain supports were more tanky than they intended, and I was just like, oh no, not Uther, please not Uther. That's what I like about Uther. And they appear to have recognized that and not taken his health away. And also Stukov.
Right, it's very important to note that stuff. And also to note that this was health for the ranges, healing numbers, and the damage numbers, all 5%. We're not talking about cooldowns. We're not talking about what the heroic does itself. So something like Stukov, massive shove. Damage reduction, but no speed, no utility removed there. Divine Shield, Hammer, they all stun and provide the same value they previously did. Shrink Ray.
Yeah. Alex Straza, nothing changed with her healing, her health, or her damage. None of that was adjusted. As a matter of fact, just Abundance had its cast range increased.
Which is a very nice change. And in fact, this is where I went, oh, Alex. Alex is good. I won games with Alex this week since this nerf went live.
Oh, nice. Because her healing is just bonkers.
Well, she feels more powerful in relation to every other support now, as she didn't receive the 5% at all, because she was already sort of there. Didn't have her numbers adjusted or anything like that. She also is a pretty darn good solo support with her own escape, a global if you want to use it that way, a great ability to increase her own health during the key moments in a team fight. When we look at her now as a solo support, if every support is now solo in a vacuum, Alex Straza looks really nice. The reason why we were sitting around with Dunk Train a few weeks ago going, what do we do with Alex, is because it was double support. And we were going, I don't want Alex, I want Rhaegar. I want Lucio Rhaegar. I want Uther Lily, maybe? Uther Malthurion may be better than that, right?
Right.
We didn't want to spare the spot for Alex, but now when we're looking at a solo support environment, things get more interesting. And like I said, double support I think should still be played constantly. It's the easiest comp to do. But things get way more interesting now in the draft, and they already have in some ways. If you have a way to heal yourself, you can run more interesting healers. Muradin can go soak a whole bunch of damage, wander off for 4 seconds, and come back with some health back. You can solo Uther that, no problem. You can solo Ana that, because your main tank doesn't have to be topped off. You run a Diablo, how are you going to get that full health back? That's too expensive for Morales. But now you can run something like Alex Straza that has a percent-based heal.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. I haven't seen that in my own games with Alex Straza for sure, but
and it's not something that's going to happen in the majority of leagues. It's something simple like cap your heal over time. If you get a Malfurion on your team, give yourself a shield. Johanna, favor a Nubarak, favor these guys who can somehow just pad out the meantime while that heal ticks. And when we get back into drafting and thinking like that, we have room for more interesting comps. Someone to be a more successful fill player. But mainly, the thing that double support removes and opens up is, with a gone, Map picks are back. Sylvanas is everywhere. And that's okay. It's more interesting.
And I think we're going to still see I think it's going to hold true when the next big patch hits as well. Sylvanas seems very strong on the few PTR games I played because queue times are absurd. Just dumb. Lily also dodging the bullet there, actually getting the heal amount on her Q, on her healing brew increased. Also, the heal amount increased on her Cloud Serpent.
They did not expect for her to fall a full 5% due to her rework.
Yeah. So I've played a few games as Lily this week since the changes, and seems good. I feel like I'm working harder than I am on Malfurion or Morales, though.
That's interesting. Because you have to sort of locate your body into range of the thing that you want to actively interact with.
And then the time between those healing brews are ulcer-inducing in times of strife when you don't have cups ready.
There are some range supports that it feels rather silly of them to lose some health. Particularly our in-your-face, what are you doing supports. Brightwing, Lucio's probably the biggest offender here, but also Lily. They got to get in there. They got to take it, particularly Lily. No one's going to run Lily in High League because you counter her by not hitting her, by ignoring her as hard as you can. There's still that hole there.
Yeah. I kind of just want to be able to toggle on targeting my damn Q.
The basic heal.
Yeah. I wish I could just target it. See who it's going to. Or they've added that nice reticule that shows you who it's going to go to. I don't know. Give me a button that lets me just stick that on somebody.
Yeah, kind of tab it over like Z targeting.
Oh my God. Ocarina of Time reference wins. And the Malfurion Moonburn is gone. That is off the table now. I still ended up going a Moonfire build in one of my Malfurion games this week because we ended up with a second support, and I was just like, why not? It's still fine. It's okay without Moonburn.
Yeah.
We already mentioned Lightning Bond's gone from Rhaegar, so that's kind of those are the asterisks in this 5% nerf for supports.
Yeah, the Rhaegar one. I gotta say it again. Just that is a brutal, 100% understandable, should have probably happened a long time ago hit.
Oh, the Lightning Bond?
Lightning Bond would give you a copy shield untalented when you would cast it on somebody else. And that sandwich of damage, either casting it on your own totem, if you were solo lane, maybe on a minion, or putting it on your tank while you engaged, doubled your damage in the early game.
Yeah.
And it was insane. That's why Battlefield of Eternity, he was the best burner of the Immortal until level 4. He would win solo lanes against maybe clumsy Sonias. He could do Merc camps very fast in the early game. It removed an entire solo laner from a strategy. It is really rough.
Yeah, well, again, on that note, I think to myself what you said about double support in general was that it was broken and now it has been brought in line. With Lightning Shield, he's not a slouch clearing lanes. There's certainly worse supports you could be on if you want to try and clear a lane than a Rhaegar without Lightning Bond.
Definitely. The biggest problem with Rhaegars right now is that they are very used to having a second support, and they play like Cassias or Varians, and that butt bite lunge just sends them into trouble that a Divine Shield maybe used to help with.
I'll own up to that. Yeah. I'm certainly in that camp. But anything else, man? Like I know we talked earlier. You had a lot of thoughts on your gameplay this week. So I mean, what does the game look? We haven't had a lot of time, but what did the game look like this week to you?
Like I said, it was just night and day. You walked in and double support was dead in everybody's minds. So in that way, Blizzard succeeded in changing up the meta rather aggressively. Almost every game was solo support medic or Malfurion, which didn't really seem to have any information to it. It's just what happened. I didn't see the big posts from the pros, or there weren't videos being circulated everywhere. It's just everybody knew suddenly that that was enough healing and anything else was too low.
And does that seem strange to you? It seems to stick out to me, because anytime there's a big patch, there's dev comments, and the devs spell out what their goal is, but I feel very often we just ignore that and keep playing the way we always have, and it's fine.
And it may be the bullheadedness of our community. We want to play right now. We don't read the patch notes. We head right in, and what could have possibly changed that would be such a big deal. Plus, we all have pride and put a lot of work into some of our heroes, particularly if you're one trick in your hero league a bit. So you'll probably go straight in. I saw a lot of Zul'jins yesterday, and people were unhappy. You know, a lot of those grandmasters I played alongside did not want that Zul'jin anywhere near them because of the nerfs he received in this patch.
I mean, that happened to me with Tychus back when we were maining him all day and all night, and then he kind of got hit with a nerf. Ever since then, I haven't had an identity, really.
Well, that's one of those fascinating ones, too, where, you know, then Tychus goes forgotten, and now he's a sleeper. He's a sleeper super carry. And you're just laughing, because with time, human perspective always changes, and it's a bizarre feat to watch.
Yeah, so I certainly have been the player that you're talking about, the one that got in this week, and I was just like, I'm just going to play a bunch of supports that I don't ever play. I mean, also part of it, I was like chalking it up to research in my head, but I was legitimately curious. I was just like, how big of a difference can I make on Morales, a hero I never play if I can help it because I find her boring? And it seemed like a very large difference. I think I've dropped one game with Morales this week.
Well, and remember, too, that we are instantly abandoning double support, but we have to make those carries feel comfortable enough. The tanks realize they don't have enough support in a single support to play something maybe more aggressive or just plain health-based. So they end up on top of these Muradins and Stitches and Dahakas. And this was the first time in weeks I had seen a Dahaka pick at all because of his ability to heal himself in there.
Yeah.
So with that equation, then you go, okay, so the tanks are taking care of themselves. How do we still run the hyper carry? Medic is how you do it with a solo. Or Malfurion if you're winning.
Kyle, that's not how the game works. You don't know if you're winning when you draft.
Well, technically you start the game almost winning. So all you got to do is keep holding on to that and then eventually win. That's the core strategy here, is you just win.
Great.
I kept picking solo Uther all day. Nobody complained. In fact, I felt extremely impactful because of the huge range of my Holy Light and the ability to still poke those now super duper squishy teams because they ran Morales and Malfurion. And obviously, if you run Morales, Malfurion, and if you think if they're the meta picks, you're going to early pick them, and you'll never guess what kind of comps owned the day yesterday.
What?
Dive comps, of course, because everyone's running solo Malfurion and Medic. So instantly, the entire landscape of Diamond 1, Master, Grandmaster changed within hours.
Everyone's just trying to kill the healer.
I ended up in a triple tank game. It was...
Audio listeners, Kyle is getting so wide-eyed right now, and then his eyes are periodically twitching.
It was bizarre. It was bizarre.
Okay. All right, so I don't know. So what do you think, man? Like, what is your actual opinion? Were they do you like what they did? Do you think Team 1 was successful? Did they hit their mark? And if they did, is it because they were successful, or are we just all reacting to placebo?
It's a lot of placebo right now, and continuing to run double support for now, before those changes hit, I think will be equally, if not just as successful into the future, maybe even more so. It's fine. However, if we are going to change our meta, there is so much that has to switch with that in play style that it's going to take a long time. Even if someone made the perfect post right now, even if this show had the perfect answer for what's going to happen, we have to stumble there. We can't run those forward tanks like that because you have to come back and peel for the family again.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I was noticing in my games. I want my tanks to calm down.
Yes. You
Or
do
at
not have
least-
double support. All my meager support is going into our carry. I love that you drafted a regeneration tank, so please bail for a little bit, get healed up, and come back in. But you're simply picking fights too far out. And though you may be tanking the whole team, I can't make Zul'jin dive. I still have to walk him forward. So to cap it all, they have succeeded with flying colors in changing comps. It is way more interesting to draft. I was constantly double support, auto-locking Uther. It didn't matter what the map was because as long as we had presence and everyone healed up, we never had to clear. We never had to get in a situation we couldn't handle because we lacked that specialist or that double assassin.
But you're still auto-locking Uther.
I'm still auto-locking Uther because of my current skills, yes. And people, they look at my games, they come by my channel and they say, oh man, maybe it's a Clown Fiesta game. And they're like, wow, this looks just like my league. But when it's looking good, when it's a really solid back and forth game, there's a lot of people that come by and say, I really wish Kyle could just play on a bronze account so he would know what I have to go through and he would know how inescapable it is. That is 100% true for week 1, 2, maybe 3. I mean, look at the season. They put me in platinum. I did not do well, but I figured it out. It was a puzzle. And that's what you do in that league, too. Like, this is very slow. We all have to be very patient about this. It's going to be really dumb at times. And if we could fast forward through time as humans, we'd stop building houses on cliffs and probably not go skiing at all. We do a lot of dumb stuff because we're in the moment. We want to go fast down a hill with sticks on our feet.
My brain
Feels
immediately
great.
goes to just eating mozzarella sticks. Why would you? Why put your heart through that?
Exactly. You wouldn't put it, but in the moment. In the moment, you're
smell it.
scared and you want a comforting mozzarella treat after your long day.
Yeah. All right. So what you're saying is just make peace with the chaos.
Make peace with the chaos, and everybody has to adjust their play styles.
All right.
And we don't know what that is yet.
I have one parting question. Am I still allowed to ask them to stop making battleground rotation changes?
I think so. I think that's fair.
I think it's fair we've spent 42 minutes now looking at our clock. We subtract 5 or so for the intro, talking about a 5% nerf across the board on supports for the most part. And laning changes are coming. And regen orb changes are coming. And camera position changes are coming. And stealth rework is coming. And they continue to swap out battlegrounds every time there's one thing that's concrete in this game. One thing that you can tie your boat to and say, that's not going in. Well, yes, it is.
You have perhaps highlighted something that makes this even more interesting. What about the battleground rotations, right? Like, is double support and our constant hyper carry, same 5 picks on each side, building the same comps over and over again, a result of the battleground rotations? Because our brains can't simply handle being that interested or that skilled, which is what it comes down to for me. I play this game to a point where I am happy. It can be a grind, but I play to the point where I am satisfied. I set weekly goals for myself for that next league, and I incrementally hit them, stop when I'm tired. But that means I don't have room for Sylvanas and Zagara and Nazeebo. I would only play Sylvanas over and over again if I was a specialist main. And the battleground rotations are supposed to encourage us to think outside the box and continue to evolve our drafting and our fill picks, but we don't. So it could be that double support is actually a result of the battleground rotation.
Too much change, so just glob on to whatever is the easiest to execute?
Make it easy, yeah. We have, in my team league, what we call the big dumb comp. It's Rhaegar Lucio, Malthael, Garrosh, and some sort of fill in there. Usually
whatever.
Butcher. That's how stupid it gets. And all we do is plant our entire face with speed boost into the enemy team, press buttons and win. And we don't target, we don't focus. It's the big dumb comp. It's a delight.
All right. That
It's
sounds
a
delightful.
horrible thing to do.
Yeah, it does. Well, before we get out of the patch entirely, there were other changes to non-support heroes. Let's talk about them. The minigun on Tychus, it's free now. No more mana costs on that. Cool. Makes me happy. Tychus has enough to worry about. I don't need to be worrying about my damn mana because I'm using my trait. Same thing with Iron Skin for Johanna. It's free. As it should be.
I like that. I have run out of mana on both these guys and
Yes.
not had enough for my trade. And that felt silly.
It's worse on... I feel it's worse on Johanna than it is on Tychus.
It is.
When Tychus had the heal on his minigun while it was firing, as opposed to accumulating and then giving you a heal at the end, essentially killing the talent and making it a useless piece of garbage, I would have said maybe they're more on par. But yeah, Iron Skin saves Johanna's life. Minigun, it's all right. I'm glad it's free, whatever the case is. Kyle, what's going on with Zul'jin? You've alluded to this multiple times today.
He has been nerfed. His power has been rearranged. Mainly if you were looking at the Recklessness talent, which used to give you 20% spell power and 10% attack damage, those have been flip-flops. So 10% attack power, or 10% spell power and 20% attack damage. Basically, they're targeting Guillotine. They reduced its damage by 20. They want to get rid of some of Zul'jin's burst. They want to encourage you to do a Tazdingo build. And all those talents along the way that made your Twin Cleave spell damage better have been a little nerfed down.
What do you think of this? I was, I'm a Grubby fan. Grubby wasn't happy with this.
I could see that as a dingo man. I'm 100% for it because I want to go back to dingoing.
As a dingo man, okay.
However, you can very much, no matter what build you do on Zul'jin, get stuck on the front line. You may think, oh, double tank Brightwing. They have no way to heal my massive damage, but you are absolutely going to put every bit of damage you deal into a tank because they're going to build that wall in front and you don't have a way to reach past that and kill the Kael'thas. Guillotine gave you that opportunity with its burst damage. So by neutering this a little bit, they've made drafting Zul'jin a bit scarier.
Sounds like it's a little bit more rock, paper, scissors than it was before.
Yeah, you still get to, if you're a master of both, I think you can still auto-lock him. He's not dead. In fact, without double support, you may not get all those sweet heals you didn't like in the first place. Keep that damage high.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, next big topic of today, Sergeant Hammer. Oh my god. I was ready to breathe and I forgot. We haven't talked about Sergeant Hammer yet. Okay, basic attack is now more responsive. Her artillery trait is gone. Siege mode is now your trait. It has been moved to D. It does not cost mana. The basic attack range bonus has been increased by a factor of 1. And she now deals 20% bonus damage to all enemies while in siege mode, instead of the 30% bonus to minions and structures. Just a 20% flat bonus. It's disgusting. It's so gross. And she can no longer cast abilities while entering siege mode. But it doesn't matter because your abilities are bonkers when you're finally in siege mode. Spider Mines have a 100% increased cast range when you're in siege mode. Also got a mana cost reduction. Concussive Blast had its cone narrowed. It's fine because its cast range has been increased by 50% while in siege mode. You can just blow people away with this thing. It's rather amusing. Also got a mana cost reduction, and then there's a new ability because siege mode was moved to your trait. She's got Neo Steel Plating on her E now, which just gives you 25 armor for 2 seconds on a 12-second cooldown. Oh, by the way, of season siege mode, it's not 25 armor, it's 50 armor, Kyle. It's 50 armor. I have spent every game on Morales healing hammers that siege against a chromie. And they're surviving. And we're winning. And I'm still angry about it.
There are some good reasons in this modern version of Heroes to be rather upset in Quick Match. There are perhaps some Unwinnable comps? Comp stompers, certainly, as we used to know them. We used to refer to Li Ming like this. Genji came out. But really, the reign of things like Garrosh and Sergeant Hammer that can feel like you have to counter draft them can be very oppressive. If you're out there struggling right now, I encourage you to get in a drafted mode if you're struggling to maybe enjoy this game, because those things can be really oppressive. Hammer, with this rework, enters my high tier lists of hero leagueable heroes. One of my big ones there is repositioning, helping get picks, killing someone instantly. That's always nice. The thing about Hammer's new rework here that is so appealing in a Hero League environment is every single level, every single talent has a surprise on it that you can pull on the enemy side. And by nature of the 12-second cooldown, 50 armor ability to deny dive. Like Chromie, that's a little scary because at least that fires from out of range. But if you got to get Zarya to walk her buns all the way to the hammer to eventually get in range, sure, she's at max energy when she gets there. She's been getting wailed on the whole time. And then she's pushed back halfway across our current view of the camera map. That's a dead Zarya, or at least an incapacitated and useless Zarya. And we haven't even talked about some of these talents, which just take this to insane levels.
Level 1, Maelstrom rounds. I'm in love with this talent. I'm not sure when I wouldn't take it. Like I get the attractiveness of the other two talents, but Maelstrom rounds are just gross. I can't wait until the changes to ammo and how important I think specialists will become. It's 40% increased damage on a shot, and it's like a charge thing. So you hit it, and your next shot does 40% increased damage. You hit it again, and they're on rather long cooldowns, 90 seconds to regain one of these charges. But if you're hitting structures, it's knocking 5 seconds off at a time of those charge recharges.
Yeah, and it's important to note, too, that's not just one attack. It is 5 seconds of attacks, 40 increased
Oh, I'm sorry.
damage.
Yeah, you're right. I misspoke.
So you're used to playing Hammer, right? And you're
No.
Kael'thas. This shouldn't be that hard. You just got to take a couple hits when you walk your way in, all right? So it's level 4. You walk your way up to Hammer, and you do a Flame Strike. Oh, she armored through it. That's fine. The rest of my team's got this. You throw the Gravity Lapse onto her, but she's level 4, and she has Unstoppable.
At level 4, on her survivability talent that she would have been popping anyway, but now it grants Unstoppable.
That's a bit crazy.
At level 4, Kyle.
Level 4, this is also where she can get a 15% auto attack damage heal when she's in sealed mode. Now, for some comfort for you out there, level 7, first aid's gone. It has now been replaced with an option for hover siege or graduating range. It's a little weaker than it was at level 16.
I'm sorry, are you telling me that I should be comforted by the fact that Hammer can shoot me from screen distance away at level 7? Is that what you just tried to
sell me on? With the update,
on?
it won't be screen distance anymore. She's getting a nerf.
No, that's not how it works, Kyle. You don't get to just pull the camera back further and call it a Hammer nerf. Sorry, continue.
She's got level 14. She can increase her knockback distance by 75%.
13, yeah.
13, yes.
Yeah.
She's 16. She can take a talent. We have to say these are really important. I hope you guys are listening, because these are every little one of these is a trick that Hammer's going to pull on you, and you are dead because you messed up. Look at the 16. Neo Steel Plating grants a shield 5% of your maximum health for 2 seconds. If it's destroyed, she deals 50% more basic attack damage for 5 seconds. If you don't know that and you dig into Hammer with all your stuns and your burst, she's going to be 50 armor, unstoppable, and have 50% bonus damage, which she could then tack another 40% on top of.
I mean, she's a tank. She should feel like a literal tank. She should feel like a tank. And she never has. She's always felt like an RC car.
She's Raynor. She was a complex version of Raynor.
Yeah. But boy, this seems strong. like, I've seen her in every game this week. Every single game. If I didn't do this show, Kyle, okay? If I didn't do a podcast about Heroes of the Storm, if this wasn't a game that I researched and I try my best to keep up on the notes of, and I had just come into Heroes this week and started playing, I would have thought the biggest topic of the week was Sergeant Hammer and not supports.
You probably wouldn't have even noticed, and you definitely would have run into Sergeant Hammer in quick match over and over again. And a lot of people are running stomp comps, like with Garrosh, for instance, but mainly with Hammer, they're running medic and other pushers, like maybe even a Rainer, but ETC. Anything that keeps you from ever reaching it. It's a battle of patience, and it's not something that 5 people queuing at midnight are particularly good at.
Yeah, now she's technically down in Hero League.
Right.
But, yeah, not by much, and it hasn't been very long.
Right, and that's a drafted environment, and we have a lot of these characters who are just quick match stompers, but once they get into a draft environment, things go a lot worse for them.
Right.
The big difficulty here in Hammer is that last pick is very powerful, just like the Butcher. And we will see her played regularly, and I think that win rate will go up by quite a bit
when she's taken later on. She can't be.
It's important to note too that she did receive a auto attack responsiveness update. If you previously played Hammer, particularly if you were kiting, doing a stutter step runaway, you'd run, then your gun would turn very slowly and towards them, turn back forward as you ran, and then it would turn again. Now it instantly snaps, so she's a lot faster too.
Yeah, that for me was always the most obnoxious thing with Hammer. But yeah, it works out really well. Earlier today, we were not streaming, we were just hanging out, but I stimmed your Hammer multiple times on Morales, and it was disgusting.
It was. So here we're taking advantage of players who don't know. We're using all our tricks. This should fade with time. There's more than enough knobs for them to turn here to balance this correctly. But, woof, Hammer, get ready for it.
Yep. There was a developer Q&A this week, Kyle, and quite a few things were discussed. John DeShazer answered quite a few quite a few questions about changes to walls, and also removing the side towers. On walls specifically, he said that they feel the removal of footprints is better for the game, as evidenced by the removal of standalone towers. They eat up space, and in an isometric environment with indirect controls, they often eat attack clicks. So I didn't agree with that one as much. I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, if you're just controlling correctly, who cares?
Right.
He went on. He continued to kind of defend the change to walls. And then he got it to a point where he said that it promotes degenerative gameplay for heroes like Illidan, Kel'Thuzad, Chen, etc., who are able to abuse walls. Vala was my concern. When the opposing team has no resource. And that's when, again, I kind of was like, oh, what? No, it's equal. The other team could have these heroes too and draft better, I guess. But he started to win me over. Well, he's calmed me down a bit. Let's put it this way. He has calmed me down by saying that on top of all of this, that there are situations where these heroes need, quote unquote, need these structures to be up in order to perform escapes, combos, etc. And if an ally of these heroes does what he said the right thing is and kills them, it becomes a point of contention amongst team members. I don't believe it should ever be a wrong decision to kill enemy structures. And I have the meta knowledge to know what heroes want structures, so I don't do that. But I'm trying my best to think of young Garrett, who came into Heroes of the Storm all wide-eyed, in Tech Alpha, and thought to himself, finally, a MOBA where I can just kill things and I don't get yelled at by my teammates. And he's starting to win me over, Kyle.
It's simplicity. I do love that he calls Illidan, Kel'Thuzad, and Chen's play degenerative.
It's a little mean. I think Illidan takes that to heart.
It's a bit aggressive, but not maybe entirely true. And I agree 100%. Let's remove areas for us to yell at each other. That was our best assessment as well last week.
Yeah. I thought so. On the removal of side towers, the Shazer said that the number of footprints models with collision in your base impact gameplay considerably. Too many footprints and your movements are more predictable. You have a higher chance of allies body blocking you when they result in an overall reduction in strategic placement. We didn't believe it was appropriate to pull power out of the defensive structures directly, so we incorporated the tower's health and damage into the gates, towers, and forts and keeps. We also give the forts and keeps true sight. As a side note, this is the longest tested of all of our upcoming gameplay changes.
Interesting.
So far, again, I have not logged a lot of games on the PTR. The PTR queue lengths are asinine, just completely out of this world how long it takes to find a damn game on the PTR right now. But the few games I have played, I like this change. I like this change a lot for all of the reasons that the Shazer mentioned here. But my heaviest joy is the amount of space to spread out and make intelligent decisions about where the hell you are standing when you are defending. Because right now it almost feels like an attacker's advantage when there's a level lead and they're just gonna knock that door down anyway, and it's just, well, they're already ahead by 2 levels and they're gonna drop their abilities in the obvious places and we have no recourse.
Yeah, and if there's a boss, a objective coming down your door, or even like ETC and the wall's about to fall, you know they're going to come in. So that entire front defense area is completely null. I like it too. This is fantastic.
Yeah, of all the changes, is the one I am the most confident in saying this is a good change before it even hits live. Travis spoke up on concerns about one tricking for more points. Just doing what you think or what you know, as evidenced by some of the things that they told us, like about Vala and Illidan at BlizzCon. Just doing those things in a losing situation just to get more points. When if you played a different way, maybe you could have eked out a win. And the biggest thing is, he said, "Yeah, no, guys, the most important thing from a rating standpoint is still winning the game." And we've been saying that since BlizzCon. And Travis is just reiterating it there. He also said that from there, it's important to note that Heroes is a very different game, and the criteria that gets you those wins aren't necessary the same as in other games. He said we have 75 heroes at this point, with more coming every month, and you can't swap heroes mid-game. Is he throwing shade on Overwatch? What's going on here?
No, I think he's just mentioning that the ability to fill in Overwatch isn't perhaps as essential because you're not making that decision at the start of the game. You go in with your main, and then when that doesn't work, you go, all right, let's get an actual Mercy or something.
Right. Finally, he said in ranked modes, drafting is important, and being able to play multiple heroes well so you can adapt to the draft is important to success. A one-trick pony player is likely to score higher from a performance standpoint when playing that particular hero, but they're also more likely to lose if they don't adapt to the situation. They'll reach an equilibrium point with the players around them where they are gaining more rank points on a win due to their higher performance on that one hero, but losing more games overall. And if we were not already an hour into this show, I would say there's an interesting discussion to be had here, Kyle, about how double support was a community-wide one-trick pony.
That is interesting.
Just popped into my head. We kind of already had this discussion, I think, in a roundabout way. But this
totally
talking about this made me think of it, because here's another emphasis on Team 1 wants you to adapt. They don't want to make it so strict that, and we've said that on the show too before, like, play multiple heroes, but don't play too many. Give yourself some options, but not so many that you're a master of none. And Travis is here bringing it up again, and that made me just tie it back into their everything they launched the support nerf with, which was, hey guys, we don't want you just building a comp blindly.
Exactly, and we're already seeing a lot more pick diversity throughout the game.
Yep.
There's also, if you are a one-trick pony, you will experience heavy losses if you're ever nerfed. So it's not always the safest thing to do. It's great in your time, particularly if your character receives a buff and you're ready to go when that buff comes down. But you also might launch yourself to a higher MMR only to return immediately to where you were because your hero got a little touched up.
Yeah, not immediately. If you launch yourself say you launch yourself to Diamond 1 from Gold 5, it'll take you a while to get back to Gold 5.
That's why it's important to, have your environments. And lots of people run Smurf accounts, not because they don't, they want to crush noobs. They just understand that when balance changes come, they won't be playing at their best, but they still have to at least participate in that draft environment to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's fine. That doesn't bother me when that's the reason that you're doing it, that you just don't want to. I mean, it's a type of ladder anxiety. You're still laddering, but you have anxiety about laddering on your main account, on your public-facing account, on the account that your friends see.
And with the new system coming up, you will climb ridiculously fast if you're smurfing with amazing skills. Mm-hmm. So any problem that would be there is starting to go away.
Yep. Finally, on Volskaya and Hanamura, they were mentioned. They said that the team feels that the release of Volskaya Foundry was a successful one, but they're definitely looking at the power of the mech, and they're currently testing a small adjustment to the mech internally. They said once they're happy, they will ship it. As for Hanamura, they're very excited about the rework. They aren't announcing details, but they want to mention that they aren't planning a mild change to the map's mechanic. It will be a major change. So that's cool. I think I like Hanamura better than Volskaya.
Hanamura was so different, and like I've said here before, we figured it out for our team league, and I enjoyed it immensely. It was also during an Ariel meta, so a 2-lane map was easier to figure out during that time. If it came back today, it might be more interesting than it was. I would expect them to go single payload route. Like they have tried that brawl multiple times. We never talk about the brawl here, by the way. Did you play this week's brawl?
I watched you play it on your stream. It looks really fun.
PvE content, not announced at BlizzCon, or no pomp and circumstance, no fireworks. Just wait, we've been working on something like in our off time. Here you guys go, and it's what people wanted forever.
It's the coolest damn thing they've done with Brawl. Let's just say it is 100% the coolest damn thing they've done with Brawl. I think the second coolest thing they've done with Brawl is the single payload maps, which is what Hanamura should have been.
I have heard that next week's Brawl is actually going to be the heroic version of the current Brawl, just a harder one, which I really like too.
I want that mode. I just pull it out of Brawl. Just give me Heroes Dungeon Crawls.
Yeah. You got the units. We're made in StarCraft here. Just fill that up.
Yeah. Oh man.
I'll even fight boxy little orcs imported from WoW, no matter how they look.
Yeah, give me damn. Oh my god, just pull in a bunch of the stuff from StarCraft Commanders. Just lock up a bunch of my abilities. Give me crazy abilities that aren't in the actual game itself. Let me level my heroes up. Oh, Kyle, sign me up. I'm in.
I think it's funny that we're all a little surprised that they see Volskaya as a success, and I think a lot of that has to do with BlizzCon and that no pro addressed the map for months. And so we just thought it was dead on arrival.
I don't love it. I don't like it. I don't like Volskaya, and the mech particularly is silly is the word I would choose.
You know it's silly when the Masters tank you have on your team says, oh wait, you can exit it?
Yeah.
And you go...
Yes.
That is an important part of the strategy, sir.
Yeah, that's the point I'm getting. It's just really weird. It's a horribly inefficient. You should get the mech, and it should just feel... Again, the Shays are talking about how you shouldn't get mad at your buddy because he killed a wall that was the enemy's wall. The mech, you should win it, and you should just be like, yeah, all right, let's get in this thing, and let's wreck their day. And instead, you're just like, let's get in this thing and tickle them from a gentleman's distance.
Let's dance around in mid lane and see if they want to pick a fight with our giant robot for no reason.
Yeah, I challenge.
Maybe they'll think our two best players are inside of it, but then we'll jump them out at the last second and show that we're really a full team.
If it took its glove off and smacked them and demanded satisfaction, then maybe I would like the robot. But it's just really silly right now. I don't like it. I don't dig it. And then finally, just quick fire on. Will these heroes ever get reworks? Varian, yes. Kerrigan, reasonably high on the list. Raynor, maybe a trait rework someday. Oh. The Lost Vikings, likely a big rework. And Chen, some paper designs being tested.
we heard about that Lost Vikings rework back at the summit, and what they told us at that time was that it was going to be split focus, that maybe he even might be multi-class or something along those lines. You will choose whether you want to do split Lost Vikings or all together as one, 3 dudes, 1 lane Vikings.
I like that. I would not mind that being a change, because I would actually start playing Vikings. So I don't want to control 3 units. I do not. But, well, we made it through, Kyle. We made it through Supportocalypse. We made it through the dawn of Hammer. And we made it through that dev Q&A. Before we take an email and wrap this episode up, we want to thank those of you supporting us over at patreon.com/ITN right now. As we kind of, we talked about it a little bit at the top of the show. Kyle, you and I, we do this type of stuff for a living. Into the Nexus is a large part of our income. That's how we keep a roof over our heads. And the Patreon is the way to support this show. So if you enjoy Into the Nexus, if you feel you get some value from our show and you want to give some value in return, always going to be free. But if you'd like to help us out, patreon.com/ITN. 423 folks over there right now supporting us into the holidays, no less. So thank you very much. There's always a drop up around the holidays, and we appreciate each and every one of you that's sticking around. This week, we want to thank Grovsky, Sean R., Jason K., Julius D., and Arvid N. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. We love our bosses. I've never liked my bosses this much, and there's over 400 of you.
Also, the end of the season's coming up, and we will be having our Patron Bonanza very soon. Keep an eye on that Patreon for announcements about that. If you're not familiar with our Patron Bonanza, we get together with the patrons, play with them in Team League, but we encourage everyone listening to show up that night, join our Team League. We fill it out with tons of people, and it's a great environment for all levels of skill.
Yeah, typically enough patrons show up that we never run out of patrons for our own team, but whether you're a patron or not, we tell everyone to get into the A-Move Heroes chat, create their own Team League teams, finish their placements, get their guaranteed mounts, and have a great time while doing it. What is the exact end date of the season this year? Or this
I
season?
believe, so we're scheduled for the week of the 11th for their wiggle room. We would expect Hanzo and 3.0 patch, basically, to drop on the 12th.
Okay, so we're looking at next week for the Bonanza.
Right.
It's early enough. My whole point was, am I wearing a Santa hat? And I think the answer is yes. It's technically December. We're making it a holiday freaking patron bonanza. I'm bringing eggnog.
I like it.
It's gonna be a good time, and eventually I'll have too much of it and say milk was a bad decision. But all right, let's wrap this up with an email.
Darkness stopped calling.
Does anyone else hear that buzzing?
Hold on. Darkness just texted me.
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. Marcus from Germany writes in and says, my question is how to improve my team for ranking up in Team League, since it can be tricky to get 5 individual players to play on the same level. I found my team in the forums looking for groups to enjoy the game again after taking a break for a while because the game, especially Hero League, tilted me too much. Now I found new enjoyment in playing regularly with the same group, but now that we want to start a rank up, I was wondering if you have any tips for training and improving our play. My first question to you, Kyle, as someone who Team Leagues regularly, do you need to play on the same level?
No. No, you don't. But you do need to find a common ground that you all agree on. And the best way to do that is to pick out one shot caller, a leader of the team that can at least make the snap decisions, be wrong if he needs to, be blamed when it's all over. But as human beings, we like having that structure.
It's not even, I mean, yeah, you can get philosophical about it, but at the end of the day, it's just efficient because you don't want to have 5 people all talking over each other.
Right, and there is some conversations to have here before you even start to get into that. And Marcus here has already begun to play with this team. But when you sit down with a group of people that you're going to meet with regularly, you got to have the talk. You got to say, how serious are we? So that all expectations are out on the ground. We know what they want to do with this time. Likely, if you're writing in here, and you're probably already the shot caller perhaps, it seems you're the most invested perhaps, They're going to look to you, and you're going to see errors in their play. How do you deal with that? How are you going to enact your will and your want to improve on the team?
Right. This is Marcus. If you've ever played World of Warcraft, if you ever raided, this is very similar discussions need to be had when you're putting together a raid. You need to find a raid leader, and you need to find out what page you are all on. I like being yelled at. I like being told I screwed up, and I like being told the right thing to do. I don't want a very polite person being, oh, well, that was fine. That was just, no, I want to just, hey, that sucked. Don't do it again. When you res, meet me here. I respond better to that, but not everyone does.
Well, and some people want that sort of feedback, but only on their mains. They do not want to be told to go X. They don't want to, that certain player never supports. Or they love Rhaegar, but they would never in 100 years touch Malfurion for some reason. And that's a conversation to have too. Are we going to chase the meta, or are we going to play our faves and make it work?
Well, you talked earlier about your big dumb comp. Like, you might have a few things, and some of none of you may have 4 to 5 different compositions you are very happy with, very comfortable. You can switch things around, but they might have nothing to do with the meta. You need to figure those things out.
It's the best way to play too, because when you're meeting with other people, it's incremental. Schedules change. You'll miss a week here and there. Playing your favorites and making sure that you have a comp worked out and a plan for the draft to get those favorites on your side will make you happier players. Ultimately, you'll have more fun playing the game. And if you miss a week, you won't come back having to read the notes going, what are we doing? Who are we? What is our identity?
Yeah. And yeah, I don't I love playing together, even on our Bananas nights that we just talked about. We get together, it's you and I, and then an assortment of patrons. Yes, we played with them before, but we do not play with them regularly. Chances are we haven't played with those 3 specific patrons all at the same time. And it's still a great time. But again, we kind of all come into that situation with the same understanding. We're kind of here to have fun. We draft to win, but sometimes things go awry, and there's that point. We've had points in the draft where we just go, can we all just have fun? Let's just take a dumb pick because this did not go our way. Let's get nuts and have a good time. And you still have a good time. We usually don't win those games, but we still do with a smile on our face.
I'm in a bit of an odd situation as the team leader and shot caller for my team because I'm also streaming at the same time. So does my team need to know for the billionth time that the Mercs will become active at X point on Cursed Hollow? No. Do they need to know why we're focusing X character over another? Of course not. We fought them a million times. But I have a chat there that we're keeping things informative for. If they're just stopping by, they know why we're playing the way we are.
And for certain players, that might actually be more helpful than you think. If they don't study their battleground timings, hearing it over and over again over the course of 5 Cursed Hollow games will teach them the timings.
Exactly, and those sort of things you can start to ease off of as you go. But when I'm combining lots of different leagues, the most powerful thing that I've found is exactly what you do in Hero League. Identify the biggest threat to the enemy team, particularly what's going to mess up your lower league players the most. And something that really can put a damper on my entire team is leaving orbs. I'm playing with silvers, bronzes, golds, and those things can be very confusing. They're big, they're scary, and oftentimes with Leaming Orb, particularly lower league players, it's going to fly out, it's coming towards you, and it goes pop, and you go, oh, that was a lot of damage. Oh, but didn't hit you. You're just scared because you know it's a lot of damage. So you dance around for 7 seconds going, oh, I think I'm calm enough to go in. No, that was 8 seconds. Now there's another orb ready. So what I do for my team is I call orbs or whatever the most important ability is. It may be Gul'dan Corruptions. It might be a Stitches hook. But every time I see it, I say, there's the orb. There's the hook. We have 8 seconds to engage.
It was the number one thing that Dunk Train harped on when we had our solo episode where he looked at my gameplay and told me how to improve. And he said the number one thing you need to be doing is adapting your play to the abilities you are seeing come out from your opponent. Whatever it is, what are you afraid of? Is it the hook? Once you see that hook come out, go in. It was Kelso's had it just come out. He's just like, if he uses anything, any of it, not even all three abilities, any of those abilities, just you see one of them come out, you're safe because he can't kill you anymore. What are you doing? Engage.
Yeah, it's very useful for lower league players. In fact, informing them of level leads. Changing your language around is also really useful if you're the shot caller with lower league players. Call mercs pressure. Don't call them mercs. Mercs are fun to take for no reason. Pressure applies strategy. It controls a lane that maybe has a catapult in it after you lost a keep, and so you can ignore that lane for a bit rather than getting pushed out. Call lane minions XP. There's a huge pile of XP in the bottom. Go grab that, solo laner. It's not a pile of minions anymore. Minions are dumb. They can be ignored. But, they're cash money. Let's get it.
Yeah, it's a resource. It can be collected, and it should be. That's a really good point. In my brain, too, when I hear pressure, that also, I immediately think of timing, too. It's like, if you just say mercs, just go take mercs. Well, are there three enemy players in the lane that the mercs are about to push? Those mercs will get nothing done. They're just going to get mowed down. You say pressure.
You deny mercs is what you'd say there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's a good point. I like that you brought up vocabulary. I'm glad that you brought up social engineering.
Well, there's a couple of other concepts I'd like to touch on real fast.
All right.
The happy couple concept. If you've been around my stream, particularly in Team League, you know what this is. It is the support and the carry. If you can call it whatever you want, but making sure your lower league players know what is capable of comps as you move people in and out. Happy couple for me is the support and the carry. The core comp is the tank, the support, and the carry. How is that fight different when the support is by themselves? Nothing's going to get done. When the tank's by themselves, very little is going to get done. Maybe they'll get a kill if they're lucky, or high damage with high levels. As the players work their way, as Rhaegar finishes his camp, if he can still do it, and comes down, how does that comp continually change? Make sure you have a buddy system.
I need to get the Butters Accountability Buddy sound clip for my board.
That'd be a great one to have. Next, pass off jobs. You can't do everything. You're one man. You're a shot caller. You're just trying to get people where they need to be. You're going to inform them of maybe the most important ability and when to engage. But that's taking all of your mouth, all your brain, and you're playing the darn game at the same time. So pass off other roles. I have the Minister of Lane Clearing Camps. That is Kristen. She knows all about merc camp timings. She notices when a merc camp will be useful in a certain lane and requests that we do it. And then we sort of have an exchange of, yes, that's great, or no, we can't do that right now. But I can't afford brain power in that area because I'm managing team fights in the later game. I also have 2 solo laners. And sometimes this is your Minister of Camps. Just people who are A-OK being by themselves so you can send them off to Soka and you know that they're going to be safe. This may not be the guy who says he wants to be that role because he's too crazy. I'm sorry, Gorath, you're too crazy. You're too nuts, you're too hungry. And you've become a tank player now because I send John and Kristen, responsible, calm people, off to do solo lanes for me.
Wait, are you telling me that when Gorath plays Asmodan, he overpushes and sometimes dies?
I'm saying no matter what character Gorath picks, he is going to give it 110%. And I love him for it. And he's a fantastic secret agent fill pick for my team, but he will always be at 11.
Gorath and I have had some debates on Asmodan.
I'm sure you have. Also, make sure you have a solo support on your team. You're going to have a support in every game. Make sure somebody on that team is happy about it. That does not need to be your double support guy, though. If you want to do a double support, he can do whatever he wants. Other people can play off supports. In fact, I would encourage you to make other, maybe even your solo laners, a double support comp and let that guy play something else there. Keep your solo support solo so he understands his perspective when he's healing. And if you throw another support in there, he's not misplaying constantly.
I like it. It's almost like you do this every Saturday and have been for over a year now.
Yeah. The final thing, and this is an optional role and it'll come and go as you need it, secondary shot caller. This is really, really helpful if you're fighting something with high counterplay options that can be difficult to pull off, or you simply don't care or haven't learned how something works. So Cho'Gall, I always play Cho, Kristen plays Gall. When you're fighting Cho'Gall, you don't care about what Gall's doing. It's all visual and big and punching around. Or what Cho is doing, Gall is doing all the damage. So when we're fighting Cho'Gall, Kristen's actually doing the cooldown. She's saying, there goes Shadow Flame, because she knows what it looks like, what it feels like. And we make that engage based on her call. If I'm fighting Hammer, I haven't played a ton of Hammer in this new form. Maybe Gorath has, so we'll pass him the secondary shot call role in that case.
By the way, I think it's just count to 12.
For what?
Neosteel.
Oh, to counter that, to counter Hammer, just keep counting to 12?
Yes.
That's true.
But, yeah, I mean, dude, you came prepared, sir. You really broke this down.
This was 5 minutes of ride, because these are actual roles. I'm not making this up. This isn't some sort of business book. I'm not preaching what I don't practice. This is absolutely what we've decided over a full year and 2 months of playing together.
I like that. Well, awesome. Hopefully this helps you out, Marcus. And Marcus, please keep up to date with us. I want to know how this goes. I'm curious if you do any role shifting as a result of this.
And those will happen too. Pick a path. It's a great thing to say as well. After everything today, all these changes, I'd love to cap it with just pick something. It's your favorite color. I need to know it. Tell me. Well, I kind of like no. One. Pick a path. That path can change any day. Just keep saying yes, okay? That's all you whatever it is, hit the ground running today. Start exploring, but find that hero you're going to play in the new system. And if you need to change down the road, it doesn't matter. At least you were committed for a bit and you gained skills. You got good.
Don't have the what do you want for dinner, honey conversation.
Yes.
Don't say I don't know, you pick. I don't want that as an answer.
Plus, I usually know what I want anyway. I'm trying to be nice, but I actually do know what I want.
So do they. They're trying to be nice. You're caught in a nice loop. It turns into a fight, but it starts it's a nice loop. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for the show. Keep those emails coming, folks. itncast@gmail.com. Thank you again, patrons. Seriously, you guys are awesome. Thank you for supporting the show. If you're not a patron and you want to become one, patreon.com/ITN. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Declan H, Cheesy Bob, Mythdoll. Thank you guys very much. Infinite Nexus t-shirts are available at shirts.amove.tv. The glassware website is back up and running. Go to etched.amove.tv if you want a pint glass, a wine glass, a coffee mug, anything of that nature can be found over there. Catch us live. We're back Thursday nights. Finally, 8 p.m. Eastern. Normal time has come back. And I'm pulling up. It'll probably get weird next month, right? Yeah. Actually, no. I think we'll be okay. I think all Thursdays fall on non-important, non-holiday days. We'll see what happens. But whatever the case is, Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/AMoveTV. Follow the show on Twitter @ITNcast. And we got to thank Gorath for that rockin' intro music and BrianGriffithMusic.com for our outro music. Kyle, where can folks find you?
You can find me over at KyleFergusson.com, where I briefly sold out of lessons, and I am currently working to add more to my schedule. Been a pleasure meeting with so many of you. It's been awesome to talk to you about your game, your mains, blow your minds a little bit, and show you some new strategy. So check out KyleFergusson.com. I'm adding new lessons times every day over there for Heroes of the Storm.
I thought you were just going to say, I recently just sold out. And I was like, how do you sell out lessons? You just start telling people that they're doing great when they're doing bad? Like,
wait, lying to people?
Yeah, you sold out. I don't know. Like you're hawking, you're hawking waffles, even though you hate waffles.
Yeah, where you can only win with this particular mechanical keyboard, as found at KyleFergusson.com.
There you go. That's a much better example. Great, folks. That should definitely go check that out. I've learned more from this game from you than anything else. I really have. I'm on Twitter @GarrettArt. All of the podcasts I do can be found at amove.tv. There are many. There's Embrace of Spoilers is going twice a month now, so if you're not listening to that, go check it out. We just spoiled Stranger Things 2. And the Star Wars podcast, Let's Talk About Star Wars, is also going twice a month for now in the lead up to The Last Jedi. So if you're not already listening to that, fine. Let's Talk About Star Wars, anywhere podcasts can be found. Because in 2 weeks, we'll be doing our last pre-Last Jedi episode, where we'll be talking all the theories. We're going to be wrong one last time before Last Jedi, and then we'll be back later in the month to spoil Last Jedi. So go check that out. That's going to wrap it up for episode 194 of Into the Nexus as we creep ever closer to 200. But until then, good luck and have fun.
Take care.